welcome back with another banger. It's the React Vibes. Hope you having a good night. Let's get straight to it.
Have you ever heard about the Lady of Fatima and her prophecy about the end of the world? In 1917, 3 children experienced a miracle in Fatima, Portugal. According to the children, the Virgin Mary came down and showed them a vision of hell. That became known as the first secret of the Lady of Fatima. The next time the children saw the Lady of Fatima, she gave them a message that World War I would be ending soon. But she warned that a worse war was coming. She specified that if Russia didn't change their ways, that it was going to lead to a lot of destruction on the planet. A year after this, World War I did end. This became known as the second secret of Fatima. She told the children that she would be back on October 13th, 1917 to reveal the biggest secret of all. On that day, 30,000 people showed up to witness a miracle. And the Lady of Fatima revealed to the children the darkest secret of all. She told the children that they were not to reveal the secret to anyone until 1960, where it should go directly to the public, not to the Pope. One of the children, Lucia, grew up to be a nun and was devoted to keeping the secret of Fatima until it was time for the public to know. In 1941, Sister Lucia became ill, and a bishop forced her to write down the secret to give directly to the Pope so that the secret would not die with her. Although Lucia recovered, when the Pope saw the secret, he declared that it will never make it to the public and banned anyone from revealing it. At the time, Malachi Martin, a priest and exorcist, was working in the Vatican. He read the third secret, but under oath could never reveal it to the public. By the 1990s, Malachi Martin started to reveal the secrets of the Vatican. He claimed that the breath of Satan had taken over the Pope and the Vatican, and started to reveal it in his books. Although he revealed many secrets, he was under oath to never reveal the secret of the Lady of Fatima. Near the end of his life, he did several radio interviews on Coast to Coast with Art Bell. He said he would not reveal the secret, but that if someone knew the secret, he would confirm or deny whether they were right. One woman said that she was told by a Jesuit priest that when Pope John Paul read the secret and it said that the last pope would be under Satan's control, that he fainted because he thought it was him. Malachi confirmed that this was true. Another person said that it would be about a false religion and the Antichrist. Malachi confirmed that this was true. You know I'm going to bring it back to Behold a Pale Horse. He claims that U.S. intelligence agencies believed that this event might have been alien manipulation, so they utilized their Vatican moles to get the secret. In the next part, we're going to dig deeper into the third secret, how it lines up with the Nostradamus prophecies, the Book of Revelations, and Malachi Martin's strange death.
Shout out to JK Ultra spilling all the tea right now. I think it's ironic that his name is Malachi. I believe John Truth translated that name to the messenger. Maybe he was trying to tell everybody something.
Hey guys, welcome back to my apocalyptic prophecy series. And to the people in the comments losing their shit about the way that I pronounced this word, seriously, calm down. It's not the end of the world. Oh wait, it is. Let's get into it. The apocalypse, right? That's what we're talking about. So we left off with Father Malachi Martin, who said that although he would not reveal the third secret because of his oath to the Pope, he did reveal in a Coast to Coast interview that all of the contents of the secret could be found in the Book of Revelation from chapters 12 to 17. This documentary explores the life and death of Malachi Martin. One of Malachi's closest friends was former CIA agent Robert Moreau. Moreau would often drop off Malachi at the exorcisms and wait there till he was done to pick him up. Moreau shares this haunting story. Malachi was meeting with a little girl to evaluate whether she was possessed or not. He determined that the girl did need an exorcism. Robert Moreau says that when Malachi was getting back in the car, that this little girl did the most horrifying, vile gesture he's ever seen a child do, and that it still haunts him to this day. Malachi died shortly after this interaction. He never got to perform the exorcism on the girl. Robert Moreau and Malachi's close friends said that Malachi said he was pushed down the stairs by an entity. Malachi died of head trauma from the fall. William Cooper claims that the U.S. government got a hold of the secret. He said the secret is about the Antichrist and how he would pretend to unite the world, but it would actually be a false religion, which would lead to World War III. That would lead to nuclear destruction. Most people would die, and the return of Christ would happen shortly after. In this book, Convoluted Universe Book 3 by Dolores Cannon, it said that the second coming of Christ is not about Jesus reincarnating into another human body, but that actually the second coming of Christ is humanity reaching Christ consciousness. Christ consciousness is considered the highest state of intellectual development and emotional maturity. It's the awareness of the higher self as part of a higher universal system. And it was about reaching the level of consciousness that Christ was trying to teach the people. Let's see how everything lines up to the book of Revelation. And this is going to be very summarized. The Bible starts off with a serpent who tempts Eve. By the book of Revelations, it has become a 7-headed serpent beast. And this beast would grow so powerful that it would eventually force everyone to take its mark either on their forehead or on their hand. This is often interpreted as thoughts and actions. It talks of Babylon. Babylon has been considered Persia, Greece, and Rome, but many believe it's more of a symbol for the systems of power, and how these systems use structures of the government to create a false god for everyone to obey. And that these Babylons would continue to rise and fall until they followed the Lamb. The Lamb is a symbol for Christ. In an upcoming video, we're going to get deeper into this 144,000 and the Lamb. But first, we're going to finish with the book of Revelations and how it relates to Nostradamus.
Shout outs to JK Ultra and the Apocalyptic Prophecy series. Shout out to Sharky So Slick for introducing me to this rabbit hole. I appreciate you. This one's a good one. It's crazy how Malachi said the girl needed an exorcism and ended up getting thrown down the stairs by an entity. This is crazy. This is a movie-ish right here. JK makes a great point by how the beginning, it starts off with a serpent tempting Eve with an apple, and by the end, it's a 7-headed dragon. That's crazy.
So tell me why everyone was seeing a red super blue moon yesterday, but this guy was literally seeing something blue that looked super in the sky last night. Y'all, check this out. This is crazy. The video is a little blurry, but you'll see what I'm talking about. Check this out, y'all.
Wait, give me a second. Hold on. What the hell is that? Do y'all see that? What the hold on.
People gotta learn to clean their cameras, man, because
Second, bro. What the?
important stuff going on outside, y'all. Look at that.
Let me go back. Hold on. Wait.
And you can see the sky is purposely covered, so you can't see what that is. But y'all see that?
Bro, this is the street and shit.
Look at that. It looks like rods going up in the sky. And this thing right here, look at this.
And what is that?
Look at that, y'all. What the hell is that?
No. We ain't finna do that, bro. No. Hey, what is that?
And that thing just left.
Hold on. That just, the green.
That thing just left.
That was right here. And now there's, hold on, bro. I'm actually freaking.
What is going on? So did anybody see anything irregular in the sky last night besides that huge red super blue moon? I know they're trying to stop us from talking about it. Hell, even showing some stuff on TikTok now. The censorship is getting out of hand. But let us know down in the comments below if you've seen anything regular, y'all. Thank y'all for tuning to my frequency. Let's get this shift, y'all. Peace in.
Shout out to Conscious Juice. Yeah, last I checked, everything was red as well. That didn't even look like a moon, though. Those are like a whole bunch of lights. Shout out to the homies who captured this one, for real.
Hey guys, welcome back to my Apocalyptic Prophecy series. This is part 3. Make sure you go back and watch the previous parts. We left off with the book of Revelation. Father Malachi Martin said that the contents of the third secret were in chapters 12 to 17. So let's do a really quick summary of those. We have a 7-headed beast, and that this beast would be so powerful that it would be able to make everyone take its mark. Whether that person is influential or not, rich or poor, free or enslaved, that no one would be able to buy or sell anything without taking this mark on their forehead or on their hand. And like we said earlier, many believe that this represents thoughts and actions. This is also where we get the number 666. It said that in the original texts, the number is written in Hebrew, which you could see above, and translated to English is www, just saying. It speaks of Babylon, which at the time of writing it would have been Rome. throughout the Bible was Greece and Persia, and many would consider Babylon some of our modern cities today, but it's often interpreted that Babylon is the systems of power, the structures of control, and governments taking the place of God. It also speaks of the New Jerusalem, which is basically heaven on earth. In the New Age movement, this is called the New Earth, or 5D, the fifth dimension, and it speaks of the 144,000 souls that stand with the Lamb. And they say the Lamb would be Christ. As I discussed earlier, Christ could also be considered Christ consciousness, which Christ consciousness is basically the teachings that Christ was trying to teach people for them to fully embody it themselves. We'll get more into the prophecy of 144,000 later, and then we get to the final judgment. This is the people of Earth's last chance to make their decision. It talks about the people of the grain and of the grapes. The people of the grain would be God's people. The people of the grapes are those who are still intoxicated with the ways of Babylon. The 7 heads of the beast are given their chance to make their decision or face hell on earth. And then it goes through the 7 bowls, and each one just gets worse and worse, disease, everything, until we get to the bowl, which is Armageddon. And then there's the harlot of Babylon, which we're going to get to in a later video. And these 7 bowls do correlate to some of the Nostradamus prophecies of what he says will happen in the end of time, before a golden age. The return of Christ, the second coming of Christ, the new earth, 5D, whatever you want to call it. Nostradamus was a physician during the Black Plague in the 1500s, the Black Plague being a pandemic. After losing his family to the plague, Nostradamus turned to astrology and psychic vision. But you should know by now, I'm not going to give you the cookie cutter information. I'm going to break down these 3 books where a woman regresses to a past life where she's a student of Nostradamus. And Nostradamus is like, good, I've been trying to contact the future. Get a book of my quatrains so I can help you translate.
Shout out to JK Ultra. So basically, Nostradamus lost his family, looked towards astrology and psychic vision to predict when things would happen again, so that maybe it doesn't happen to others like it did to him. Maybe he felt guilty, like as if he seen it coming, he could have warned his family and maybe they would still be with him. Maybe a little sense of remorse. It just takes you into the psyche of Nostradamus the Great. I find it interesting. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below.
Hey guys, welcome back to my apocalyptic prophecy series. And this is the part that I am most excited about, because we're going to talk about the books that literally broke my mind. As we know, Nostradamus was a physician in the 1500s during the famous pandemic, the Black Plague. And later in his life, he started having psychic visions, which he started recording and later published as his prophecies. These prophecies are written as quatrains. A quatrain is basically a 4-line poem, and he almost wrote them like riddles. So let's get into these really interesting books. These books were written by Dolores Cannon. I love Dolores Cannon. In the 1960s, Dolores Cannon was a hypnotherapist. She helped people deal with trauma and phobias, and then some of her clients started regressing to past lives. So she started to check out the information, and it was checking out. How did people know things about places they've never been or never read about? In about 1986, a woman came to Dolores out of pure curiosity, wondering if she had any past lives, and she ends up regressing to a time in the 1500s where she's a student of Nostradamus. And Nostradamus is like, yeah, it's about time. I've been trying to contact the future. I gave you guys all of these prophecies and you're not even paying attention to them. And Dolores is like, contact the future? Where are you now? Are you dead? And he's like, no, I'm not dead. Time is simultaneous. He's like, the future? God, you guys really just don't learn anything, do you? And this is one of the best things about this book series, is that Nostradamus is a huge dick. And he's super pissed off, which makes the whole thing more enjoyable to read. So he's annoyed. He's like, go and get a book of quatrain so I can translate it for you idiots. He's like, you know where to find me. Come back when you have the book. So the woman wakes up from this regression and is like, she's freaked out. Dolores is like, oh shit, well, let's get the book and then we'll put you back under. And the woman's like, no, not for me. So the woman ends up telling her, look, I'm not doing this. I'm afraid. I'm leaving the state. I'm moving to Alaska. I don't want to have anything to do with this. And Dolores is like, Nostradamus is in the 1500s, simultaneous time, asking us to translate his quatrains. She's like, yeah, no. So Dolores convinces her, please, can we just do it one more time? So the woman agrees, and they end up translating some of the quatrains. But there's like 1,000 of them. So she's like, tough shit, basically, and moves to Alaska. So Dolores finds another woman, Brenda, and regresses Brenda back to talk to Nostradamus. And they start translating quatrains. But then Brenda needs to get a night job and is like, sorry, I can't. So then Dolores gets another guy, Phil, who's in a lot of her books. And he starts seeing the end of the world and is like, nope. So then she puts an astrologer under, and Nostradamus gives the birth chart of the Antichrist.
Okay, hold up. Wait. This is starting to play out like a movie. Shout out to JK Ultra. This is getting deep.
Say it's the strangest case that's ever happened in the history of hypnosis. You can't call it channeling, you can't call it hypnosis because it is so different. It was actually going back through time and contacting Nostradamus while he was alive, living in the 15th century, 1500s in France. But it happened totally by accident. About 10 years ago in 1986, when I was working with a woman, we just wanted to go into a past life to see if she had a past life. There was no problem. She didn't want any therapy. But during the course of the regression, some very strange things began to happen. We didn't set out to contact Nostradamus. I don't think you could have. It was something that was totally unpredicted and simultaneous and spontaneous. But during the course of the session, she went back to a lifetime where she was a student of Nostradamus in France. And that's when everything got very strange, because as this male student, she was talking about Nostradamus, and suddenly she said, he wants to speak to you. And I was totally, shocked, because anyone who does this kind of therapy knows that does not happen in this kind of therapy. And she said, he has a message for you. He had been looking for a link to the future because he could see that the prophecies where he had written were not being correctly interpreted. And the time was coming when they were going to come true. So he said he has an assignment for you. He wants you to get the book that has the prophecies in them in French and English. And he wanted me to read them to him. And he would tell me what they meant and explain all of the code that has been lost for 400 years. He would explain every symbol, every anagram, and tell me what part of history. At that time, I didn't even know what a quatrain was. The quatrain is a 4-line poem. In the case of Nostradamus, a 4-line prophecy. And he wrote almost 1,000 of them. And not even half of them have ever been correctly interpreted. And some of them have been interpreted after the fact, after they've already occurred. So it was quite an assignment. But when the woman woke up and I told her what she had said, she was so frightened she moved to Alaska. So you can't say I started it, you can't say she started it. There was something very peculiar at work here that is still difficult to explain to people. But we had time for one more session before she left. I think she was trying to appease me more than anything, and it was help with packing boxes and suitcases, and she was having a garage sale. And she said, I have 1 hour to do the session, and then they were having a going away dinner for her. But during the session, he came through again, and he said, I still want you to do this work. I said, I can't, she's moving away. He said, that doesn't matter. Now that we have made this connection, I will come through anybody you work with. And he gave me the instructions how to locate him and a test to perform so I would know I was actually speaking to him. And this is why it ended up with 3 volumes, because over the course of 3 years, it went through 12 different people. He did what he said. He would come through anybody I worked with. It was like having his telephone number, and I could call him up anytime I wanted, and I'm still able to do it if we want to get some more information. But we successfully translated all of the known prophecies, almost 1,000 of them, and I had the unenviable job of putting them in order, in a chronological order of some kind. It took a computer to do it. But the translations were coming so fast at the height of our work that as fast as I could read them to him, he was giving it back. We were doing 30 translations in an hour. It's absolutely impossible for the human mind to do that. It cannot think that fast. But he was telling me what all the symbols were, the anagrams, and he broke the code. Then I had to use a computer to put it together. So it ended up with 3 books because it took many twists and turns along the way. And none of the people I worked with knew anything about what the other ones had said. But yet they continued the same scenario, the same story he was trying to get across to our time. There was no deviation, no matter what prophecy I read. I found later it wouldn't have mattered if I would have started at the beginning of the book and read straight through, because they are in no set order. They're not in chronological order. I would just open it to anywhere in the book and check off after I'd read it. But at the height of this, they were just coming so fast, 30 in an hour. But there's another part to this that makes it even stranger, is he was most emphatic. He said, "You must understand you are not speaking to the dead. I'm not a spirit floating around out here somewhere." And he wanted me to be very sure that I emphasized that. He said, "You are speaking to me while I am alive, living in France, writing the prophecies." And you know what that brings up, if that's true? It's the metaphysical concept of simultaneous time, that there is no time, that everything is occurring all at once. Very strange and very difficult concept, but this is what he said. I am contacting him while he is alive. That's why I consider it having his telephone number. But I got to know him very well, and he is really a very definite personality, and there was no way we could mistake it when we had contacted him.
Hey guys, welcome back. This is my apocalyptic prophecy series, and we're looking at the birth chart of the Antichrist. If you're wondering where this information comes from, go back and watch part 4 of this series. So when John the astrologer goes under hypnosis, since they have to use a different method, because unlike the first girl, he didn't have a past life with Nostradamus. And I'll explain that method in a different video, but I know you guys are very eager to see this birth chart. Well, here she is, and it's the fucking Antichrist's birthday today. Yeah, seriously. Pause it, take a closer look. Wasn't thinking Aquarius, but yeah. Okay, so one thing I'd like to note is that we see how everything is basically right over here. And I'm no astrologer, but basics are definitely, if everything is all on one side in one spot, that does show a lot of imbalance. Okay, so I want to note that Nostradamus did not give dates. Nostradamus says that in our time, the calendar has been changed. Therefore, he wanted to give the planetary alignments as close as he could. And then the astrologer used those alignments to try to calculate a birthday. So this is very important because, you know, I'm a researcher. And of course, you know, I believe I know who the Antichrist is. So I'm going to compare something here. The person who I believe it is based on all of the information in the book, and there's a lot, and I'll be getting into that in the next video. But see, this here is the person who I believe it is, and I'm not going to reveal their birthday or their name. They are a world leader. It's not Trump or anything like that. Like, come on, with the political theater. Even at one point of the book, they ask Nostradamus about one of the elections, and he's like, don't insult the information I'm giving you. Like, no. He's talking about, like, bigger issues here. This is the chart that is given by John the astrologer in the book. This is the person who I believe it is. And as you can see, they are very, very, very close. He says a lot of the planets are in Aquarius, that the planet Uranus opposes these Aquarian placements in the sign of Leo, in the 7th house. He says that Pluto will be very important in his life, and that when Pluto moves into Sagittarius is when things will change. Pluto was in Sagittarius from 1995 to 2008. This will be an influential time in his life, and the person I'm thinking it is came into power during those years. His Neptune is in Scorpio. Now, I would like to note, and this shows simultaneous time is actually happening here. Nostradamus is talking about Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, but none of those planets were discovered in his time. Did Nostradamus learn about these planets from Dolores and John the astrologer? Tag your astrologer. I want to see what they think. And next, we're looking at more traits of the Antichrist.
Yo, shout out to JK Ultra. Looking at that birth chart felt ominous. Like, yo, imagine that. Nostradamus didn't even have those planets in his time. Like, what? Yeah, this is a rabbit hole for real.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Apocalyptic Prophecy series. We're still breaking down the Conversations with Nostradamus books by Dolores Cannon. In the last video, I posted the birth chart of the Antichrist. And a couple of you posted the name that I think it is. But I deleted your comments. Good work. But I'm not going to die for your entertainment on TikTok, okay? So if the name is still up there, it's not those people. Whenever I see the name, I'm going to delete it. And you might ask, why are you protecting the Antichrist? I'm protecting myself. And Nostradamus says that this is his destiny. And that actually, while he's still alive, when all of this horrible stuff is happening and he's gaining more and more power, the Antichrist's ego and paranoia is going to get so extreme as his power grows that he's going to reveal the cabal and everything under the Vatican. And that this is part of a big karmic experience for him. That he's already going to be clearing some of the negative karma while he's still alive because of the truth that he's going to expose to humanity, which will be part of this golden age coming. Let's talk about the mark of the beast. As we know, this is in the book of Revelation. What's the significance of WWW? Well, not sure exactly, but the person who invented it was an employee of CERN, whose logo is also 666. Dolores asks Nostradamus, what is the significance of 666? John says that Nostradamus is showing him columns of numbers. Now keep in mind, these hypnosis sessions were occurring throughout the 80s. It took Dolores several years to translate all of the quatrains, but computers were not readily available and neither was the internet, obviously. So Nostradamus says that there will be a worldwide communication system. He said that the 666 more so represents the communication system, that it's not his name. Now here's where it gets interesting. Nostradamus talks about what sounds a lot like the mark of the beast. He says there will almost be this invisible tattoo that will be painless and undetectable to the eye, which will be inserted into the forearm or the hand, and that there would be equipment to scan whether someone had it or not. And people would need this in order to go shopping, buy food, or enter certain places that are necessary for their work or career. He says there will be a resistance movement against the Antichrist. He says that this resistance group will be aware of what's happening, but no one is going to listen to the underground. And these renegades will not be able to fit into society. And that they would be people from all different walks of life. Financially, religiously, spiritually. And they will try to overthrow, but they won't be able to. And that these people will live as outcasts. And guys, remember, calm down. Don't freak out in the comments. This is for entertainment. This is for fun. I'm not implying anything. And when you comment on shit you don't like, it only makes the algorithm bring it back.
Shout out to JK Ultra. I agree, don't freak out. It's just entertainment. But for real, I've always heard of the book. Now I gotta go get that book. For real. I gotta get a few of these books now that we talking about it. But dang, just hearing it all tied together, it's like a movie.
If you were just standing there in line at the fun fair and see this, what would you do?
So I know we have a lot of scientists, meteorologists, and TikTok. I want to know, what are these clouds sitting on? Okay? Because when I ever put these videos out, I have so many experts coming out, this and this, this and that. What are these clouds sitting on? This is from a truck driver in Texas, y'all. These clouds look like they are sitting on top of something. Or something sitting on top of us? Like an overlay, a matrix overlay. I've heard people say we're getting close to the dome. This is why we're seeing these shadows in the sky as of late. But do you see how low these clouds are? And these clouds literally have been so low as of late. Has anybody else realized that? It's like looking at the bottom of a ship while you're underwater. Y'all see that? Just the imprint of the clouds. Now I don't care what nobody says. These type of clouds that we are seeing now, I have never seen them when I was young. I mean, never in my life have I ever seen clouds to go fight and run and jump in front of the sun and block the sun. I know y'all been seeing that lately. In fact, it happened to me the other day when I went to go look at the sunrise. These clouds were literally fighting to go jump in front of the sun. What is that all about? Does anybody know? Clearly something is going on with the sun that they don't want us to see. But let me know what you guys think about this video down in the comments below. Like, comment, and share for more videos like this. Thank you for tuning to my frequency. Let's get this shift. Peace out.
Shout out to Conscious Juice. Yeah, those clouds look pretty flat on the bottom. I see what he was trying to say, like they were sitting on something, just chilling. Yeah, I always thought clouds were a little more fluffy than that. You know, them truck drivers be seeing a lot of things.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Apocalyptic Prophecy series. Before we get deeper into the Nostradamus predictions, I want to talk about a famous psychic named Jeane Dixon. She was one of the most famous psychics of the 20th century. In 1956, she published a prediction that the 1960 election would be won by a Democrat and that person would be assassinated in office. That person turned out to be JFK. She became an advisor to FDR. She told him that World War II would end in 1945. He died in 1945, but the war did end shortly after his death. She also became an advisor for Presidents Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan. But on February 5th, 1962, the same date that came through in the Dolores Cannon books, Jeane Dixon had a psychic vision of the Antichrist being born. She said that his presence would be pretty unknown until the age of 30 when he came into power. She said that he would be a military figure, but also a phenomenon of political order. She said that he would come from the Holy Land, and that at the time he was in power, there would be an advanced communication system that would link the youth of the countries. She said that leading up to the Antichrist's destruction of the world, that the youth would become vulnerable because of chemical and biological warfare experiments on people. She said that there would be a government within a government that would damage social and economic factors, which would prepare the world for the Antichrist. She said that he would be known as the Prince of Peace, and that he would promise civil liberty, equality, and reform. Now let's compare this to some of the Nostradamus predictions. Nostradamus says that the Antichrist will be seen as a great humanitarian, and that he will win many peace prizes from countries around the world, and maybe even a Nobel Peace Prize one day. That he will be loved for bringing prosperity to countries that are experiencing famine and loss. But that leading up to him taking his control of the world, economic chaos will spread beyond third world countries and will affect the major nations. Nostradamus says, leading to these times of trouble, the political situation of the United States would start to deteriorate. He says that within the government, there will be people who secretly serve organizations that can be traced back to banking families, as well as commodity families like gold, oil, and diamonds. And that initially these families just think that this Antichrist is just another world leader for their control. But eventually the Antichrist will turn on them, which will eventually backfire, because then the people who've been inciting wars will be gone or have lost their power. So the general public will really only want peace. He says that these organizations have the power to control inflation rates as well as unemployment rates. Nostradamus says there will be a vocal minority of people who are claiming that this person is the Antichrist. But because people see that he has only done good things, it will be a very unpopular movement. And next, we're going to talk about the evil mentor of the Antichrist and how he grooms him into his position and to fulfill his destiny for evil.
Bro, Nostradamus. I ain't know we got that deep. Shout out to JK Ultra. I'm blown away by what I'm hearing right now. Like, what? JK Ultra is doing a very great job of breaking it down. Like, she's saying a lot in a short period of time.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Apocalyptic Prophecy series. We are still breaking down the Conversations with Nostradamus books by Dolores Cannon. And in this part, we're going to discuss the evil mentor of the Antichrist. Now, throughout the book, Nostradamus refers to him as an evil priest, but also as an evil imam. For the sake of this, we're going to call it the Antichrist's mentor. Now, these are some of the scariest parts of the book. So Nostradamus makes it very clear that at the time of these hypnosis sessions, that the Antichrist is not the Antichrist yet. So he corrects them several times throughout the book, and he's like, don't call him that. He's not the Antichrist yet. So he explains that there is a mentor who's kind of like an uncle to the Antichrist. And this person is a powerful religious figure in that community. But behind closed doors, this person is an extremely powerful magician. And part of this mentor's destiny is to groom the Antichrist for the end of times. So at one point, Nostradamus shows John the astrologer his looking glass, which is basically like a black mirror that he uses to get his visions. So in the time of 1987, he shows John, this is him today. And there's a meeting that's happening in Egypt. And he sees the Antichrist. And John is like, wow, this guy doesn't seem evil. He's like, actually, he's very magnetic and he seems pretty likable. And he's like, and his suit is so nice and he's wearing like a diamond or something. And Nostradamus says that's because he is not the Antichrist yet. At this point, he is still just a magnetic and charismatic man. However, his mentor is also in the room. And when John looks at the mentor, he just gets horrified and is like, oh my God, like this is just pure hate. And he starts clinching the chair while he's under hypnosis. Nostradamus explains that this man, this evil mentor, came from a nearby country and he saw the destruction of his own country, which turned him into a very dark person. And this evil priest allowed for a negative walk-in to enter his body. Now, a walk-in is different than demonic possession. In a walk-in, you completely allow another soul to take over the body and the original soul leaves. With demonic possession, the original soul stays in the body and a demon also inhabits it. So this negative entity that has taken over the priest is the energy of the Antichrist. And when this evil man dies, this negative walk-in is contracted to go into the body of the Antichrist, which would then turn him into the Antichrist. So Nostradamus makes it very clear that the Antichrist was not always the Antichrist and he was not always evil, but it is part of his destiny to allow this to come into his body and for it to take hold. This evil magician sensed John's presence in the room and then started psychically attacking John after this. Even throughout the book, Dolores experienced a psychic attack from this man. Next, we're talking about the last pope.
Shout out to JK Ultra. When it comes to Dolores Cannon, I didn't know it got that deep. I mean, I've seen inserts of her interviews and try to piece together, but hearing this, along with Nostradamus, it's like, whoa.
Nostradamus saw in his future 3 men that he called antichrists. One was Napoleon, the second one was Hitler, and the third one is the one that is to come, who is said to be the worst of all because he will learn from the mistakes of the others. A very dangerous person. He didn't like the term Antichrist. He said it was a Christian term and it was not exactly what he meant. But he said if you think of Christ as representing people, humanity, then Antichrist is someone who does terrible things against humanity, against people. And it can be the type of personality like Genghis Khan or Attila the Hun, the type that doesn't care anything about what it's doing, it only wants power. So this is what he meant by an Antichrist. But the third one, he gave us a great deal of information about him because he wanted us to do something to stop the man. He said, in the Bible, in the book of Revelation, and other books in the Old Testament, the people saw the same things that he saw, the prophets did. They only put them in their symbolism they could understand in their time, but they all saw the same thing. And that the man he refers to as the Antichrist is the number 666 in the book of Revelation, called the beast. Of course, he said 666 also refers to his connections with computers. So there's a lot more to it. But he has been predicted as far back as Bible times. So he said he has a destiny to fulfill. He has to come, but after he comes, what happens after that is in the hands of mankind. Do we allow it to go through the worst case scenarios, or can we lessen it? That's the point. But the man is alive now, and he has his destiny to fulfill. We were given a lot of information about this man because he is so important. We have his horoscope. He was born on February the 4th, 1962, in Jerusalem, but he's not Jewish. And his parents were killed during the Israeli war, and when he was about 6 or 7 years old, and he was raised by his uncle. His uncle is a very evil man, and we have had many people see him, and we have, in my work, and we had one woman who was able to put together a police composite picture of the uncle and of the Antichrist. She was a psychic who had worked with police on many cases, so she knew how to do the police composite kits. But the uncle took the young boy and was raising him as his own. What the young boy doesn't know was that the uncle had his parents killed, so he could have him for his own. And he has gotten together a very powerful group of rich Arabs in the Middle East, and they've been taking care of this young boy and grooming him for the role he is to take. It's a very powerful group of people that control everything that happens in the Middle East. They're the puppet masters behind the scenes. Nostradamus said by the time 7 puppets arise in the Middle East, you will realize what is happening, that they are not the real leaders of the countries, but they are the puppets being manipulated by the puppet masters behind the scenes. The young Antichrist went to college in Egypt, and we were working on this at the same time he was in college, so we were shown several scenes of him in college. We knew where he was living. We had all this information.
Shout outs to Dolores Cannon. Now her work is starting to make a lot of sense. Shout outs to JK Ultra. This is exactly what she was talking about. According to this, we also know the uncle was a magician. He played a big trick on the boy early.
Hey guys, welcome back to my apocalyptic prophecy series. I want to move through all of this dark stuff pretty quickly because I would like to get to the aspects of the apocalypse that are positive and bring on the golden age. But first, some evil popes. As we know, this is all coming from Conversations with Nostradamus by Dolores Cannon, and these hypnosis sessions were done in the 1980s. Nostradamus says there will only be 3 more popes. As we see right here, the pope before the last will have a very short reign. He said 3 popes before the last will be assassinated. Now this is going to bring us back to the 3rd secret. And this brings us back to the 1st and 2nd parts of this series. Father Malachi Martin had read the 3rd secret. He was one of very few people on earth who had read the original text of the secret. But because of his oath to the Pope, he was not able to reveal that secret. He died in 1999. And a year after his death, the Vatican released their version of the secret. And here's an archived article from the New York Times. In the year 2000, the Vatican said that the secret was about the attempted assassination of the Pope. This received a lot of backlash because many people believed that this was an edited version of the secret and that they were withholding the rest of the information. As we can see here, the quatrain and the interpretation of it, Nostradamus says that this attempt on the Pope's life would happen in a major European city and would be near 2 intersecting rivers. Now, Nostradamus said that he believes the last Pope is going to come from a Nazi family, and that there's going to be some controversy around him coming from a Nazi family. Now, although this did not end up being the last Pope, I would like to note that the whole Hitler Youth scandal with Pope Benedict did lead to him having a very short reign. And Nostradamus said that the Pope before last would not last long. That some political blunder and mistakes would make it easier for the last Pope to come into power. Nostradamus also says that the last Pope will be French or have a French connection. Again, just speculation, but our current Pope is named Francis. He says the last Pope will be a tool of the Antichrist and will allow him to go into the Vatican library. And now here's where things get really good. That because the Pope betrays his oath to the church and allows the Antichrist into the Vatican library, the Antichrist uses that information to dismantle the religious beliefs of the world, which causes a lot of harm and conflict between different experts and religious leaders. And it says, although the Antichrist goes about it the wrong way, releasing the knowledge to the world will help him to start working off the negative karma that he acquired by what he's done to the world. Nostradamus says that these events must be lived through in order for peace to eventually happen on Earth.
Shout out to JK Ultra. I can't believe I didn't know this what Nostradamus and Dolores Cannon had in common. What a wonderful job in breaking this down. I must say I'm blown away.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Apocalyptic Prophecy series. I want to answer some questions about how they were able to actually contact Nostradamus. So as we know, this information came from Dolores Cannon. Dolores was a hypnotherapist who over the years developed her own style of hypnotism called QHHT, Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. As I said in a previous video, I'm trained in this style of hypnosis, so I've put people under and I've been put under myself. What makes this style unique is that it regresses you to your higher self. So you would come to the session with a list of questions and your higher self will answer them. In Conversations with Nostradamus, the first woman was a student of Nostradamus in a past life. So when she went under hypnosis and experienced a past life, that's how the connection with Nostradamus started. And when that woman didn't want to be a part of it, and Dolores had to find another subject, she had to use a different method to reach him. So then there was the woman Brenda. When she put Brenda under hypnosis, Brenda went to a place which is called the void sometimes in hypnosis. And this is a place in the astral between the planes of existence where it's just emptiness. And some people describe seeing some wispy smoke while they're there, kind of like 11 in Stranger Things. While in the void, Dolores connects with Brenda's higher self and asks to be brought to Nostradamus. Then Brenda basically perceives herself coming down into Nostradamus's home. And then she shows up in his black mirror, which has been used throughout history, similar to a crystal ball. And it's not usually glass. It's usually a volcanic rock, which has been smoothed, or it's an obsidian. Now, when John the astrologer went under, they used another technique to get there. When she regressed John, he went to the Akashic records. Now, the Akashic records is like a library in between the planes of existence, and it holds all the information. Every life that's ever been lived, any life that ever will be lived, every event that's ever happened, anything that ever will happen, and every possible timeline. The word Akash is a Sanskrit word that means ether. So it's almost like records in the ether. And now here's where things get very interesting. So John connects with a guardian of the records while he's there. His guardian explains that only souls on this human level of existence see the records as a library. That for us, we resonate with the image of a library in books, but souls on different levels experience different things at the records. So then he brings John to the tapestry room. And what we would see as the individual books of someone's life, in the tapestry is simply a thread. So each soul has a thread, and each event intersects through the soul. And the more influential the person or the event, the thicker the thread would become. And Nostradamus's thread was thick like a rope made of gold.
Yo, this is crazy. Nostradamus, Dolores Cannon, The Void. I know you've seen Stranger Things. I mean, that made perfect sense. But it's crazy. I think it's fascinating to hear Nostradamus speak of the Akashic records.
Hey guys, welcome back. And we're going to talk a little bit about the golden thread of Nostradamus. And you're going to be lost if you haven't watched the last video. So as we went over, in the Akashic records, it is also perceived as a tapestry. Each soul has a thread, and each event has a thread. And depending how influential these things are, how thick the thread will be. So since Nostradamus is such an influential person, his thread is so thick. And because his prophecies are going to help us get off the worst possible timeline of the apocalypse, his thread is golden. So basically, from the tapestry room, with the help of the guardian, John is able to go into the thread of Nostradamus, but he can't control which time of his life he gets there, which is why we talked about earlier how John entered when Nostradamus was younger, and he told him about Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, which is how Nostradamus wrote about those planets in his quatrains, even though they weren't discovered for hundreds of years later. So John and Dolores contacting Nostradamus earlier in his life, before he wrote the quatrains, actually influenced the quatrains that then later in the 80s they were going to go back to decipher. Simultaneous time, y'all. Simultaneous time. Nostradamus also told John there's 2 more planets that won't be discovered until 2040. Okay, so then John the astrologer is moving out of state. So now Dolores has the same problem again. She has no subject to contact Nostradamus. So on the last day that she has John, she puts him under hypnosis. He goes through the tapestry and through the thread, and they see Nostradamus later in his life. But Nostradamus is like, yeah, it's a really bad time. My son is getting christened. I have to go. And John and Dolores are like, yeah, but this is really important. We only have 1 more session left. Nostradamus is like, sorry, I gotta go to my son's christening. So John tried to stay in the room, and then the guardian of the tapestry says that he's breaking the law of free will by staying in Nostradamus's room when Nostradamus asked him to leave. So John basically gets astrally pulled out of the room. So then Dolores gets a wild idea, and that's why I love her. She's like, if we can't find out through Nostradamus what's going to happen, what if I regress you 100 years into the future? If time is simultaneous, then regressing someone into the future would be the same exact thing as regressing them into the past. So Dolores regresses John 100 years into the future. So this is in 1987. So they go to the year 2087. So in the future, John is incarnated as a woman on Earth and says the world is only 10% land and 90% ocean. And she says that there's one world government, which was established in 2039. 2039 was 10 years after the shift. Now, coming up after this apocalypse series, we're going to go to the Earth Shift series. And stay tuned because NASA confirms this 2030 date. But first, the prophecy of 144,000.
Shout out to JK Ultra. This whole Nostradamus Dolores Cannon exchange is like watching Stranger Things. Now that we're talking about the void and going 100 years into the future from 1987, I'm like, what I've been missing this whole time? What's going on here? Very interesting stuff.
As we come to the end of this apocalyptic prophecy series, let's get into the prophecy of 144,000. And let's circle back to the book of Revelation. According to the Bible, there will be 144,000 souls who stand with the Lamb and have the name of the Father on their forehead. And throughout history, the forehead usually represents the third eye. Now, what is the Lamb? In Christianity, the Lamb is interpreted as Christ, but it also means purity, forgiveness. Many interpret the 144,000 as Christians, but it clearly states in the Bible that there's 12 tribes. But this is not only a Christian phenomenon. It also appears in Islam. It also appears in the emerald tablets of ancient Sumeria. It also shows up in Native American prophecies. But wait, there's more. This was a message channeled from Ra, the sun god. If something as extreme as a planetary explosion were to occur, the 144,000 or more christened beings would simply move into their ascension bodies and take the rest of the Earth's newly awakened people with them. The 144,000 christened ones will create a quantum leap for humanity. Now, what are the christened ones? If there's 12 tribes, there's going to be many different ways to interpret this. Some could see it as Christ the man. Others will see it as Christ consciousness. Some will see it as the crystalline structure. Christ consciousness is a unity consciousness. It's becoming self-aware that we're part of a universal system, which is why the second coming of Christ doesn't need to be a man coming back to earth. It could be humanity reaching the teachings that Christ was trying to share. Now remember, in Jewish gematria, 666 meant the devil. But what does 144 mean? Light. Now, light is not just good and evil. Light is information. Darkness is the lack of information, which is why it's called the Dark Ages, because nobody knew how to fucking read. And there was no advancements in society during that time. But wait, there's more. 144,000 comes up in the Mayan calendar. It's the highest form of measurement in the Mayan calendar. The Great Pyramid was made of 144,000 stones before people started stealing them. Okay, so this right here is the speed of light. But this is the miles per second if you're traveling on land. But when you're traveling in the air, it's nautical miles. And the speed of light is 144,000 nautical miles. The book of Revelation was originally written in ancient Greek. In ancient Greek, apocalypse doesn't mean destruction. It means to uncover, to disclose, to reveal. So the apocalypse is not the end. The apocalypse is the unveiling, the unfolding of things not previously known. So if there's almost 8 billion people in the world, how could 144,000, less than 1%, do anything? But it's already less than 1% that controls all the wealth, that has all the land. To be clear, the 1% that is currently in power would literally collapse the economy and destroy the planet before letting you even get a slice of bread for free, okay? So no, if we're waiting for the 1%, bye-bye planet Earth, okay? What I was saying is, don't fall into the belief that a small group of 144,000 could actually make a change in the world, because it's a lot less people than that who already control the world. So of course, less than 1% can change the world for the better. And that, my friends, is how we stop the Antichrist.
Mic drop for real. Shout out to JK Ultra. Wow, what a rabbit hole. It was like a movie. It's crazy. From the priest, the exorcist, to Nostradamus, to Dolores Cannon. I definitely want to check out the Nostradamus books now, as well as check out Dolores Cannon's books as well. For real. Like, man, it's time to go to the bookstore. Thanks again, Sharky So Slick, for the nod. I appreciate you. This was a good one. Thank you for sharing. And that's a wrap. Hope you enjoyed tonight's rabbit hole. Before we go, I want to give a huge shout out to Crash Burnsley on becoming the channel's newest member. Thanks, Crash. I appreciate your support. Peace and blessings. If you haven't already, please take a second
just to smash that like, subscribe, ring that notification bell,
just to make sure the algorithm knows what's up. So what we gonna do, y'all? That's right. Run these numbers up. Thanks again. Until next time.